Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again. I am here today to talk about another requested video. So this is a tier list of DC live action movies. I was kind of hesitant to do this because I have not seen like any of the Superman movies except for Man of Steel, Batman v Superman. I did not see any of the original ones or Superman Returns because when I was a kid, I would just watch Smallville. I would watch Smallville constantly. I think I watched like the first 4 seasons and then I never really caught up and I just said, screw it. And now, I think there was one time, like, when I was, like, 15 or 16, where I tried to rewatch the series so I could get through the whole thing. And I think I just stopped at, like, season 3 for some reason. I don't know, but I really love the show. That can't be on this list, though. So I have like a huge gap in the DC movies, and it's kind of like hard to talk about these not mentioning Smallville, or just not mentioning like Superman movies. It feels like almost like just a Batman movie tier list. But anyways, I'm gonna do it though, and get ready for it because it's gonna be pretty controversial. If you thought that light Marvel one was controversial, oh, get ready. Because to me, Marvel is like McDonald's. And DC is like Burger King. And we all know how people feel about Burger King. I mean, Burger King is complete trash. And there's only like 1 or 2 good things there. And I don't really go there at all. They used to have this really delicious 4-cheese burger, and it was probably the best fast food burger in history. And of course, they took it off the menu. And as a kid, I really liked the chicken tenders and the fries, but other than that, I can't stand Burger King. I can't stand their awful food. And just like Burger King, it's like DC is almost the same way. I can't stand DC. I can't... The live action movies, like the fact that they have all these great characters, they have all this potential, and they just do trash. And they just continue to do trash. And it's really irritating. I feel like out of all the DC things in the past 20 years, which would be like almost my entire lifespan so far, I would say that the best DC thing that I've ever had is the Lego Batman 3 game. Because at least that game felt like this is what the movies could be like if they took things more seriously. Had all these different characters, had all this variety of cool action set pieces and things. But then you go to the movies and it's like, oh, here's another crappy Batman movie. Oh, here's a crappy one-off movie. Here's another crappy movie that nobody cares about. Like, it's just a constant barrage of trash. And if they think that James Gunn is going to fix it, I highly doubt it. I have like an 80% feeling that DC is still going to be trash in 10 years, and I have about a 20% feeling that DC is going to rise, as people like to say. You know, DC rises, like, that's only 20% for me. Confidence level, especially after seeing those awful Superman Legacy casting choices. I mean, Nicholas Hoult is a great actor, but him playing Lex Luthor is retarded. And that guy probably playing Superman is awful. These are awful, awful casting choices. I mean, I can't believe it. It feels like Zack Snyder, his casting choices were trash too. But at the same time, they were a lot better than this, honestly. For the most part, there were some that were just awful all the way around. But wow. I mean, it's just awful. Like, another thing that pisses me off too is the fact that, like, I got really excited when Henry Cavill was announced to return as Superman, because I felt like he was really screwed over by the studios, and I was really excited to see him, although I was not excited to see Black Adam, because I despise The Rock. I think he's a fake, phony, egotistical, and I hate watching movies with him in it, period. And so I did not go to the theaters to support, Henry Cavill as Superman. And I guess since I didn't see that trash movie, they didn't stick to making more movies with him, unfortunately. So I think that that's probably, like, the worst thing, is that, like, we had two trash choices. We could either go see and support an awful looking Rock movie, an egomaniac movie, or we could let Henry Cavill get replaced by James Gunn's crappy young Superman fantasy pick. So anyways, I have the F tier all the way to the S tier. I have already ranked all the films. And just a quick run through of the movies that I haven't ranked, because I haven't seen them. You have Steel, Return of Swamp Thing, Catwoman, Constantine, Watchmen, Jonah Hex, Wonder Woman 1 and 2, Aquaman, and Black Adam, and then all the other Superman movies. So those are completely off of this list. So I don't know how many movies there are on this list. I'm just going to read them off, how I rank them on each tier. First off, we have the F tier. These are movies that have only one redeeming quality or none. And there's quite a few on here with none. The worst DC movie of all time so far is Zack Snyder's Justice League. This movie is atrocious. It's abysmal. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's pretentious. It's dull. It's crap. Everything about it is trash. The story is trash. It's just a fucking stupid little simp MacGuffin story that any fucking 4-year-old could write. And the characters are trash. They're not likable at all. They're not even superheroes. They're super trash. I mean, you have the sesame seed. I mean, there's so many stupid fucking things about this piece of shit movie. Gal Gadot's acting is terrible. The black-suited Superman, terrible. Instead of, the good Justice League, where they put, the real suit on him, the colorful suit that actually looks like the greatest one in the comics, not the trash black suit Superman, like you're trying to be black suit Spider-Man, except with Spider-Man it made sense because it was the symbiote suit, and it was a symbol that he was bad when he had that suit on, or he was at least like more of an anti-hero. With Superman, it's like, oh, he's wearing the black suit because it's a tribute to his stupid fucking Kryptonian family. It's like, nah, not really. It's just a way for Zack Snyder to be edgy and to be cool, because he's a little edgelord and he thinks that everything he does is amazing. And the whole movie looks just so ugly. I mean, this is one of the ugliest awful looking movies I've ever seen. Steppenwolf looks like a generic early 2000s piece of trash mud. He looks like you took a fucking bowl of fucking shit and then more fucking sculpted it into fucking Steppenwolf from the comics. There's nothing about this movie that's good. Maybe a couple of the music scores, some of the songs were okay. But other than that, this movie is one of the worst experiences I've ever had. It's 4 hours, and it feels like 4 days. The first time I saw this, I had a 2-hour root canal before I watched it. And honestly, getting that done was a better experience than watching this movie. Next up, I was almost going to say up next. Up next, or next up, is Suicide Squad. Ugh. This is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. You know, Safi and I, we did a commentary for this movie, and I still haven't released that commentary because it's all on her phone, which is sad. Because it's going to take a while to get her to give me her phone, since that's all she uses all day for her business and everything. So, this is a movie that I knew was going to be bad. Everyone said this was going to be really good. It's going to be amazing because the trailer had Bohemian Rhapsody. I knew it was going to be trash. Why? Because it was one of those movies where they lied about it and where they pretended like it was going to be this really dark movie and it was going to be R-rated. You know, there were rumors that like there was a scene where Harley Quinn and Joker were in a club together and she sicked one of her hyenas on this guy, and the hyena like bit the guy's face off and stuff, and I thought like, ooh, that sounds like it would be a pretty good movie, but no. It was awful. I mean, just awful. There's nothing good to say about this movie whatsoever. The casting is terrible. The story is terrible. The computer animation is terrible. Enchantress is one of the worst villains in movie history. She's awful. And then you have the fucking cloud thing where you have this fucking CGI cloud, and that's part of like a sky portal. I can't even remember. It's just stupid. Everything about this movie I hate with a passion. Next up is Birds of Prey. Ugh. This is another movie I knew was going to be trash. Feminazi trash, though, which is almost just as bad as regular trash. Oh yeah, in Zack Snyder's Justice League, you know, a lot of the characters, they were just so unlikable. Like, Aquaman, he was much more likable in the Joss Whedon version. Cyborg was like a crybaby bitch in real life and in this movie. And he just, the whole movie, he's just like scowling and, you know, crying like a little bitch. And I just can't stand him. Wonder Woman is like a terrorist in this movie. Batman is just kind of the same. And of course, Ezra Miller, probably the worst actor in the face of the earth that you could choose to play the Flash. Like, honestly, I'd rather have Adam Sandler play the Flash than Ezra Miller. Sorry, I'm just being honest. So back to Birds of Prey. This is a movie that shouldn't have been made. It was a thing where, you know, Margot Robbie, she used her fame in order to spread political agendas, her own personal feminazi agendas, and that's why she made this movie. It was all about the agenda. It was all about making her stupid female power DC superhero anti-hero movie, and she really disgraced the comics. She disrespected them with these awful, awful character choices. You know, you have Token Black Canary, You have the chubby Asian Batgirl. Wasn't she Batgirl? I can't even remember at this point. The chubby girl who eats a diamond. And then, Harley Quinn herself is awful. Renee Montoya is awful. I mean, just everything about this movie is just complete trash. The only good thing about the movie is Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Huntress. And even then, her armor looks awful. It looks like a feminazi armor where she's not allowed to look good. So they got to make the armor make her look like a man or something. And it just looks terrible. It's just the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And as I was saying in the fucking... might have been the costume video. Birds of Prey costume rant. I don't know. It just legitimately felt like Margot Robbie took comic books about Birds of Prey. She got on the toilet, and instead of reading the comics, she just used those comics as toilet paper. Because the disrespect that she had for this Birds of Prey story, these Birds of Prey characters, was off the chain. And of course, she wasn't even the writer or director. Like, she puppeteered this other woman to do this crappy movie. And it's like, basically this movie is like BMX Bandits, but a feminazi comic book version. The whole movie paints it like all men are evil, only women are good. It's just terrible. It's not as bad as Suicide Squad or Zack Snyder's Justice League, though. Next up is Batman and Robin. I hate this movie. I fucking hate it. It's a piece of shit. It's a joke. It's goofy. It's cartoony. Speaking of which, Batman Forever as well. These two movies are everything that's wrong with studios, As I say before, a lot of the times what happens with movies is that studios will see a movie that's really, really good, like the first two Batman movies, and they'll take all the wrong messages and apply that to the next movie. And that's what they did for these two Batman crap movies. There's basically nothing about either of them that's good. I'd never watch them again. I think they're both an embarrassment. I think that they're some of the worst movies I've ever seen. Oh, wait a second. I forgot. Sorry, I'm going to have to change something. Below Batman and Robin and Batman Forever is The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves. Not only is this movie another slog, a 3-hour slog, it's lifeless, it's joyless, it's a ripoff of like a million things. Like, there's this one guy, he had a Batman pitch, and then they ripped it off for this movie. And there's a whole lawsuit over it. You can look it up. And, they also ripped off Monk Season 1, Episode 1. They ripped off 7. And, basically this movie is like scrapbook filmmaking where they just pick parts of other movies and put them into their own. You have Twilight as Batman, one of the worst casting decisions in film history. You have a token Catwoman. You have a token Jim Gordon. And you have a Zodiac Killer Riddler. And then, of course, that's not even mentioning the awful, awful Joker that they had in the deleted scenes. I mean, what a terrible casting decision that was, too. This movie is it's a piece of shit. It is just completely irredeemable of anything that's good. The music is terrible. The Batmobile is terrible. I hate it. I hate this movie. It is definitely the worst Batman movie of all time, and I despise it. And then after Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, which are both kind of interchangeable, because it's really like, you know, the same movie almost, except some people like to pretend like Batman Forever is a quality film, which kind of makes me want to throw up. Next up is Green Lantern. Oh, this is probably the most disappointing movie because I remember as a kid when I saw the trailer for Green Lantern and how excited I was. It was such a good trailer, and it made it look like it was going to be a really good comic book movie. But then you go to the movie, which of course I didn't. I just stayed home and watched it on YouTube. Sorry. I heard the reviews and I was like, no, I'm not asking to go see that in theaters. And then it starts off terrible. It starts off like a Hallmark movie. And then the stuff where Green Lantern is training on whatever it is, I can't remember the planet. That part's pretty good. I really liked Sinestro in this movie. I thought that was really good casting. But everything else about this movie is just awful. I had a hard time getting through this movie. It was so bad. It was such a mess at the end. It was bad. Like, I wanted to turn it off. As soon as they did the race car thing, you know, where, like, I can't even remember, like, did he like make a race car and then sit in it with his stupid love interest? Like, God, that was so stupid. I hate this movie. I hate all these movies. And lastly, in the F tier is Batman v Superman. I mean, this movie is just a giant joke. I mean, it's just a complete piece of shit. And the fact that people pretend like it's good and pretend like it's a masterpiece, that just makes it even worse, because then you watch the movie and you just sit there like, LOL. Like, maybe a 12-year-old edgelord would think this is a masterpiece, but, you know, us adults, we know that it's a piece of shit trash movie. Just like all of other Zack Snyder's movies. A terrible filmmaker. So, Batman v Superman. I mean, what do I even say? Martha, why did you say that name? Fucking Doomsday looked terrible. Awful Doomsday. Disgrace to that character. Fucking Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. Vomit. The Jolly Rancher scene. And keep in mind, this is the theatrical cut, too. You know, they took the regular edition of the movie, and they were like, okay, let's cut out all these parts that make the movie make sense. And then let's, like, forget about that, because we need to release a shorter version to be smart, because we're DC and we make the smartest decisions. And, putting all that aside, though, this movie jumps the gun, which is kind of funny to say that. It just jumps the gun. Like, maybe this universe would have worked better if we would have had 3 Superman films, 3 Batman films before this. But this movie's like a take on The Dark Knight Returns, and that movie takes place like extremely late in Batman's career, and so it's like, you're rushing things and you're doing things too sloppily and too fast, and then you have the whole stupid thing with the thumb drive thing where Wonder Woman looks at all the fucking superhero trailers like, oh look, here's a little teaser trailer for The Flash. Here's a little teaser trailer for Aquaman. Like, that part made me cringe so badly. The only good thing about this movie is the Batman fight scene. Honestly, it's too bad that we never just got the solo Ben Affleck Batman movie, because if we had gotten that, then I wouldn't be so mad that we had to deal with the DCFU. But the fact that we had to go through all that suffering and we didn't even get a Ben Affleck solo movie just makes this even worse, because it's like Ben Affleck was an okay Batman. He wasn't the best, he wasn't the worst, he was okay. And he was a lot better than Twilight Boy. And so that really pisses me off. Now, we are in the D tier. And there's just one movie here. It is Man of Steel. This is an okay movie. Like, if you just take the comics out of the movie, you could give it like a C+ or a B-. It's basically nothing but action. Like, just nonstop loud noise, action, crappy cliches, like the love interest in this movie, all the stuff that she does is cliche, like when she's allowed to come on to the Kryptonian ship and everything. But I can't really remember as much with this movie. Like, all I remember is just action, just nonstop, like, crappy action, crappy emo Superman played by a potentially good Superman. And then you have Michael Shannon as General Zod. He was like a cartoon, basically. And Faora, she actually, I will say, Faora is probably one of the only good things about the movie, because she actually did a good job, unlike him. You know, he's a meme. In this movie, he's just nothing but a meme. And so the fact that they brought him back, it's like, I don't know what they were thinking. And besides that, okay, let's talk about the comics. This is a terrible Superman movie. It is the worst Superman movie ever. I haven't even seen the other ones. I don't need to. This is the worst one. Fucking Mr. Kent telling his son, you should have let the bus full of children die. Him not letting Superman save him when he's hit by the tornado. I mean, this is just awful, awful filmmaking. It's just awful. It's the worst. And Superman killing General Zod, that's awful too. That's a disgrace to the comics. Amy Adams as Lois Lane is terrible. Lawrence Fishburne as Perry is terrible. This movie's just crap. But I could watch it just as a movie, I guess. The music is fantastic. The music is the only thing keeping this movie from being an F. I mean, the music is especially good. This is probably the best Superman music in history. I'm not really a fan of the original Superman theme, so I'm more of a fan of the Man of Steel music. Now we are in the C tier. We have Joss Whedon's Justice League. This movie is really, to me, not bad, but not good at all either. Like, it's very close to being a D. I felt like Joss Whedon just made the best of a bad situation. I really feel like I would have loved to have seen a Justice League movie just directed and written by Joss Whedon entirely. Because the thing about him is that he is really good at doing finales. He's really good at doing, like, the culmination of a story. Stories coming together, characters coming together. And that's what Justice League was supposed to be, but it was another thing where they were jumping the shark. And so the movie was going to be bad either way. Honestly, I like that he gave Superman his colorful suit back. I liked how Steppenwolf looked more than the other movie, because he at least had some human qualities. I really didn't like how in the other one he just looks like a generic CGI villain. I really liked a lot of the scenes with the team that he added, like just him and Wonder Woman, Batman and Wonder Woman. Aquaman was way better in this movie. The Flash was way better in this movie. Cyborg was bad in both versions because he's a terrible actor, and the character was just, he seemed like nothing but a crybaby bitch. So, I really don't think even that Cyborg should have been in the movie. I think it should have been like, I don't know, maybe Green Arrow. So, and then at the end of this movie, I really didn't like the final fight with Steppenwolf. Joss Whedon is not really that good at doing fight scenes, so again, this is not a great movie at all. I do feel like people are unfair to it. I mean, the two biggest complaints to this movie are the Russian family, which, honestly, like, I don't even remember the Russian family from the time I watched it, and then, also the sex joke with the Flash and Wonder Woman. Well, I'll take those, and I'll raise you the scene from the other version where Aquaman, that one weird girl, sniffs his sweater. That scene is more cringe than anything in this movie combined. So next up is The Batman, Adam West 60s movie. This movie's just a cartoon. I don't really... I mean, I can't even remember the story. I do remember the bomb thing in the movie. Other than that, it's just a cartoon. It's just a kid's movie. It's just not really anything. Next up is Swamp Thing. For some reason, I got this movie as a kid thinking that it would just be a horror movie. I didn't know that that was a comic book character. And it's just a very mediocre movie. Like, I can't even remember it very well. I remember, like, the basic story, I guess, but not really, like, anything else. And at the top of the C tier is The Dark Knight Rises. This movie is overly long. It's pretentious as hell. The villains are terrible. The music is the only good thing about it, and there are a couple of good scenes. Like the opening scene on the airplane is good. But, Christopher Nolan, he did not want to make this movie. And you can really tell. It just feels like a soap opera conclusion to Batman. It feels like this could have been way better. Robin Williams, he wanted to be the Riddler, and Christopher Nolan did not let him do that, and I feel like I much would have rather have seen that movie than this movie. With beta male Bane, who is tied to Talia al Ghul. And then, of course, her performance was terrible. I mean, that thing with... Everyone makes a meme of that now, with her dying, and she's like... That was really bad. And she was a good actress up to that point. Like, I don't think she made anything else that bad. But then when she did that movie, all of a sudden it was like, oh, that's the end for her. I don't even know, has she been in anything else after that movie? Because that was really bad. Let's see. Let's see. I mean, I know that she's popular, but let's see. Ooh, yes, she has. Oh, God. Well, let's see, how many, though? How many, like, after the Dark Knight Rises disaster? The Dark Knight Rises disaster. It's a funny sound. Okay. Let's see. And we're going to look at some things that are... It's already telling to me the things that she was in afterwards. Just waiting for it to load. Okay. She was in a TV movie about Joan of Arc. She was in a music video, one episode of a random French show, a movie called Blood Ties, The Immigrant. Now this is something. She was in Anchorman 2. Ugh. She's in a movie called 2 Days, One Night, a music video, one episode of a show, an animated movie that nobody's heard of. She was in a version of Macbeth. Which thousandth version is that? She was in another animated one, TV show for one episode, From the Land of the Moon. I don't know what that is. It's Only the End of the World. I don't know what that is. She was in that crappy movie Allied, which I heard that was terrible. She was in the Assassin's Creed movie, which is notoriously a piece of shit. And, oh god, she was in Doolittle too. Oh god. Oh. And it looks like just this buffet of trash. Like, before The Dark Knight Rises, let's see, you have Contagion, which people like, Midnight in Paris, which people like, Inception, Public Enemies, which some people like, Big Fish, which some people like. I haven't seen them, though. I haven't seen any of these. And then, anything else? No. That's sad. The Story of Marianne Cotillard. And she got paid. She didn't even get paid $1 million for The Dark Knight Rises. She only got paid 700,000. What's she gonna be in next? Upcoming. Oh, I haven't heard of any of these. Little Girl Blue, The Inventor Lee. Seems like she's mostly just in French stuff. It's weird because I always thought that she was in more stuff. Like, she has a face. It's French. It's a French face. And I thought she was in more stuff. That's kind of sad. She's got a career retrospective on IMDb. Probably stops at The Dark Knight Rises, though. Okay, next up. Now we are in the B tier. Shazam. This movie is a ripoff of Big, but it's a fun family movie. It's genuinely enjoyable. I really like the villain. Once again, Mark Strong. He's great in anything he's in. I do not like Zachary Levi as Shazam. I prefer the guy who plays him as a kid. I prefer Billy and his friend. But overall, this is just like a decent movie. It's too good to be a C, and it's not good enough to be an A. And I didn't even bother watching the second one. Now we are in the A tier. Batman Returns, I think, is the first one in the A tier. This is a pretty good movie, you know. It is a solid follow-up to the first one, sorry. I enjoyed it as a kid. I don't really enjoy it that much anymore. Like, I don't really go back to rewatch it at all. I like the casting. Danny DeVito is the Penguin. Michelle Pfeiffer is Catwoman. They're both perfect. I will say, too, do they actually... I can't remember, like, is Catwoman's face actually painted white? Because I think that was one of the things that disappointed me as a kid, was that, you know, on the poster, her skin is white, and it looks like really like ghostly white, and then in the movie it looks just like skin tone color. Yeah, it's just pretty much skin tone. It might be slightly whitened, but it just pretty much looks skin tone to me. That was something that disappointed me, because I thought on the poster she looks really good as Catwoman. But overall, I really like the story of the movie. I think there's a little bit too much of like Catwoman's origin in the movie. But yeah, it's a pretty good movie. It's a pretty decent Batman movie. There's not much bad to say about it, really. Next up is The Suicide Squad. This is just a typical James Gunn movie, you know. In everything that he makes, he always has the same flaws. He always has the same... He is never... He's just always on that same level. Like that decent B tier, you know, where he never really gets better, never really gets worse. He just kind of stays the same. But in this movie, there are some genuinely good things that felt like huge improvements on his other movies. I felt like the characters were solid, except for Harley Quinn. The characters were solid. The fight between Peacemaker and Rick Flag was really, really good. Awesome, brutal. King Shark was awesome. Polka Dot Man was awesome. Ratcatcher 2 was awesome. I will say the third act was kind of a piece of trash. It was kind of like a letdown after the first two acts were so good. And then that one like 30-minute sequence with Harley Quinn is probably one of the worst sequences in any DC film. But other than that, like, I really like this movie. I would watch it again. I don't think it's a good suit. Like, I think that another thing that pissed me off was they said they had this whole, like, marketing campaign where he said, don't get too attached. And then the whole movie, I just felt like I knew exactly who was going to survive and who wasn't going to survive. So I wasn't really, like, feeling that don't get attached marketing campaign was something that worked, you know, like the opening scene, I knew that like all those characters were gonna die. It was very predictable. So I will say that. Next up in the A tier, we have Tim Burton's Batman. This is a masterpiece of a movie. It's not my all-time favorite, but it is a masterpiece for sure. I mean, Michael Keaton as Batman is perfect. Jack Nicholson as Joker is perfect. The story is great and dark. I love the balance between, you know, being dark and adult, but not being too dark and adult, because it's a kid's movie. I could watch this movie pretty much any time. I've seen it a million times. It's infinitely rewatchable and good. I think that my favorite part about it is all the scenes with the Joker. Like, even though, you know, it's not like The Dark Knight where you have Heath Ledger, but I love, like, the scene at the restaurant where Joker comes in and him and his crew are vandalizing all the paintings while Prince is playing. And I love the Love That Joker advertisement too. And I loved his origin with the whole chemical plant thing. And just, I love this movie. It's great. It's really, really good. Now we have the S tier. The Dark Knight is the first movie in the S tier. This is a movie that I think is a little bit overrated. You know, it is a little full of itself where it's like, oh, we're being really gritty and realistic, but then all these like unrealistic things happen, and it just kind of makes you look silly because it's like you're taking it too seriously. At the same time, this movie is nearly flawless. It's a very entertaining movie. It is a very good comic book movie. It has lots of rewatch value. The Joker is a great villain. The one other flaw is Christian Bale's Batman. He's not really that much of a star of this movie, is he? Like, the Joker is really the star of this movie, and I feel like that's a huge flaw. And then next up, speaking of Joker, the second best DC movie is Joker. And I know that just made people scream. To me, this movie, it was a very artsy film. It was a very, very good film in terms of, I didn't expect this to be good. I thought that it was going to be a waste of time and stupid. And it really felt like they took a very simple story and they just made the shit out of it, you know. That's what happens with filmmakers who are good, is they can take even like the crappiest, like bare bones script and they can make it into the best movie. Because that's the whole point, is that a movie isn't just a script, it's all the other elements. And I felt like this is cinema. This movie is pure cinema. I would also say that it is a very impactful movie in terms of, you know, you really like Joker as a character at certain points, and you really don't like him at other points. It's a very interesting experience following this villainous character instead of following the boring, typical superhero character who's just, oh, you have to like him, and then that's that. And the music is really good too. I mean, probably the second best music in DC history. Now, number 1 is Batman Begins. To me, this is number 1 because it's the number 1 superhero movie. It really makes you feel like you want to be a superhero. It really makes you feel like you're Batman. And Christian Bale is actually the best out of all 3 movies in this one. It's a fantastic origin story. The multiple villains are really, really good. It is just a solid movie. Like, every time I don't watch this movie for like a couple of years, I forget how good it is, and then I go back and watch it again, and I'm like, wow, that's so good. I forgot, like, wow, there's that, and it's perfect. It's really perfect. The music. This is the first time where Hans Zimmer did the Batman music, and I feel like people should acknowledge that, you know, like everyone talks about like The Dark Knight Rises, really good, The Dark Knight, really good, but nobody really talks about Batman Begins, the music, you know, the music in the training sequence, all the music in this movie is perfect. And I will also say, I saw all 3 of these movies in theaters in a marathon. It was a 3-movie marathon, the same night that, you know, the Dark Knight Rises shooting happened in Colorado. And I will say that Batman Begins was the best theater experience out of all 3 movies. And it almost felt like everyone in the theater, we enjoyed the first one so much, we all could have just gone home. after watching the first movie because it was that good. So that's my ranking for DC films. It's just my opinion. I don't really care if it pisses you off or not, because it's like, whatever. Like, it's just my opinion and my list. And so I am not excited for James Gunn's DCU. I thought that it was a mistake making him the head of DC, because I really don't have faith that he's going to pull off these main characters. He might have like a big variety of movies and shows, which is nice, but I really don't have faith that he's going to be able to build up Batman and Superman. I really don't have any faith at all, because I've seen his other movies, and just like Zack Snyder, in every movie that he makes, he always has these same flaws. And it feels like in Superman and Batman, he's just going to have the same flaws again. You know, like, that's a problem with a lot of these filmmakers, is that they're just always the same. They never improve, they never change, they never try to get better. They just always stay on that same level. Like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was not even the best Guardians movie. The second one was. And the Suicide Squad was pretty much only better because the first one was one of the worst movies ever made in history. So I don't think that he's going to be the savior that the DC universe is looking for. However, I will be giving his universe a shot for the channel, but that's it really. Like, I'm not excited about this as a fan, as a person, you know. So I'll just say that. And so please like this video, comment, tell me what you think about my list, and then please subscribe if you'd like to see more honest ranking videos. And then happy Mother's Day. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.